Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Wray, I sent you a letter last week about the FBI's decision to try to obtain sensitive personal information related to concealed carry permits in the state of Missouri. I've got the letter right here. Have you read this?
I have had a chance to glance at it, yes.
Good. So let's talk a little bit about it. Why is the FBI attempting to audit concealed carry permit records in the state of Missouri?
So I guess the first thing I would say is we will get you a longer, more detailed and specific response to your letter. I am generally familiar with the kind of audits that we're talking about, so I can give you a little information now, but we will follow up with you in writing to give you a more fulsome answer to your letter. The kinds of audits that we're talking about are routine audits that are conducted by our CEGES division, which also encompasses NICS, among other things. These are audits that we do not with agents. There are no agents out talking to people. They are routine audits of the system to make sure the system is being used properly, and they do that at the direction of an advisory policy board that is manned with not just FBI agents, frankly, not just federal law enforcement, but state and local law enforcement from all over the country. And so these audits go on, they look at small samples in order to make sure the system's being used properly. They're not focused on individuals or their Second Amendment rights or anything like that. And in fact, these audits, which go on, as I said, every 3 years, I think, is the cycle. We had one in your home state in 2018, for example, and I think it was very uneventful, and I would expect this one to be as well.
You're correct that there was one in 2018, and what the sheriffs of Missouri say in 2018 is that the FBI did not request concealed carry records. You are requesting it this year. In the state of Missouri, only the sheriffs have these concealed carry records because Missouri law explicitly forbids concealed carry permit information to be turned over to state officials or to federal officials for reasons that you can surely understand. We've seen recently what's happened in California, for instance, when gun owners are exposed, their personal information put out into the public record. So I just want to understand why it is the FBI is now seeking from our sheriffs, and we're talking about multiple sheriffs who have contacted me, who have contacted other state officials, who have spoken to the press, saying that the FBI is now asking for the names of concealed carry permit holders in the state of Missouri. Why is that? If you've not done it before, I don't understand.
Well, again, I'm going to have to look deeper into to give you a more fulsome answer to your question. My understanding, my limited understanding as we sit here right now, not having a chance to drill into it more deeply, but is that that under Missouri state law, checks for concealed carry permits are run using one of those systems that CEGES administers. So in order to be able to determine that the system is being used properly, consistent with the audit, consistent with the direction of the advisory policy board, I think that may explain the answer. But so, again, okay, let me follow up with you in more detail in writing.
Okay, so you can confirm, though, it sounds like you're saying that indeed the FBI is asking for records, because you just said that would be the reason for requesting this information.
I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I've heard that may be may explain the disconnect, but I'm not sure.
Well, heard from whom? You say you've heard from your agents, or heard from whom?
From people within our organization, yes. Okay. I'm trying to, in the middle of everything else, trying to unpack what exactly is going on with the dust up over this particular audit.
Well, you say in the middle of everything else. You can understand, I hope, why this would be of significance to the people of Missouri.
Absolutely, and that's why I've committed to that we will make sure we get you a detailed response in writing.
What could you possibly be doing, I mean, with the personal information of these individuals? Let me ask it this way. Are you doing this in other states as well? Are you going to other states and asking for concealed records, concealed carry permit records in other states too, or is it just Missouri?
I know we are doing audits, these routine audits in some other states, but I don't know. I think it's a function of different state laws as to what exactly is within scope in terms of the use of the system.
Why are you asking for it now from the state of Missouri, from our sheriffs, when you didn't ask for it in the past?
Again, I'm going to have to get more information to be able to provide you a written response to your letter.
What steps would the FBI take to make sure the information remains private if you're able to obtain it from these sheriffs all across Missouri?
Again, I'm the same answer. I really want to be careful not to speak when I don't have all the facts.
Okay, so you're not going to answer my questions. Well,
No, I am going to answer your question. We're just
well, you're
gonna
not
answer-
answering them
Not
now.
here, because I don't have the answer.
well, because you're under oath and because you're not prepared to answer them. I'm disappointed, frankly. I sent you this letter days ago. This has been on your radar screen. The Attorney General of our state sent you a letter before that. You've known about this. This is of significant concern. It directly affects Missouri state law. You can understand the position. You've praised your local law enforcement partners earlier today, Director. You're putting them in a terrible position in the state of Missouri. State law says they cannot turn over these personal records. The sheriffs cannot. You are asking them to. Apparently, in an unprecedented fashion, they've not been asked this before. I want to know what in the world you're doing with this. And frankly, I don't like the fact that the FBI is snooping around the concealed carry permit records of Missourians. I don't like it at all. I don't know what you want to do with it. I don't know what you're going to do with the information. But I don't like that you're putting our sheriffs in this position. And I'm disappointed that you're not ready to answer my questions. Let me ask you about something else. Afghan refugees. The FBI is involved, you have said in the past, your agency has said in the past, in helping to vet refugees who were brought here after the botched evacuation by this administration out of Afghanistan. I'm sure you're aware that the DOD Inspector General has said that earlier this year that there are at least 50 Afghan personnel who were brought to the United States who in fact had derogatory information, could be terrorists, could be involved in terrorist activities. 50 of them who've been brought here, released into the United States, can't now be found. That information was turned over to you. I understand DOD gave you that information, asked you to help track down these 50 individuals. Here's my question. A whistleblower has now come forward to Senator Johnson and myself and alleged that the situation is actually far graver than that. According to this whistleblower's allegations, there are 324 individuals who are evacuated from Afghanistan and allowed to enter the United States despite appearing on DOD's biometrically enabled watch list. This is a watch list that identifies folks whose biometrics have been collected and determined to be threats or potential threats to national security, including known suspected terrorists. So this whistleblower says it's a lot more than 50. It's 324. Are you aware of this? Has DOD or DHS communicated this to the FBI?
I don't know that I have the exact number. I know that there are a number of individuals through our Joint Terrorism Task Forces that we are actively trying to investigate as a result of the
How many?
Again, I don't know if I can get you the number, but I will see what we can get you as a follow-up.
Of any of this nearly 400 individuals now who apparently have been brought to this country despite having some connection to terrorism, have you interviewed any of them? Have you apprehended any of them?
I know there have been a number of interviews of individuals who came, lots of interviews, frankly, of individuals who came as part of the evacuation. I think there have been a number of disruptions. How many of those have been arrests, under what charges, and so forth, that I'd have to get back to you on.
Last thing, Mr. Chairman, the whistleblower has also alleged that political appointees to the National Security Council and at DOD instructed agency personnel to cut corners when they were processing Afghan evacuees, and rather than administer fingerprint tests on all 10 fingers, for instance, to abbreviate those tests in order to promote rushed evacuation. They also alleged that personnel at DHS who worked on vetting Afghan refugees had been authorized to delete old biometric data whenever they personally want to. Obviously, these are very troubling allegations. Are you aware of this behavior at DHS and DOD?
I'm not familiar with the report that you're referring to. I will say that this was a massive number of people to be vetting in an extraordinarily short period of time, and that, in my view, inevitably raises concerns.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right about that. Inevitably raises concerns, I think, is the nicest thing that could be said about it. In fact, we know that the basic procedures were not followed. We know that the screening process was not followed, and now we know that potentially hundreds of people connected to terrorism are loose in this country as a result. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.